Nicole Leininger is a highly successful real estate broker with Ivester Jackson Distinctive Properties, a Christie's affiliate here in the Charlotte metro area, specifically Lake Norman, but throughout the Charlotte area. Nicole, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you for having me.
Great to have you. I'm so glad we were able to coordinate this and have this conversation. You've had an amazing career. We've been acquainted for a few years. We're both in the same market here in the Charlotte area and Lake Norman region. And it's been amazing to follow you over the last few years and just see your amazing accomplishments. So I'm looking forward to sharing a little bit of your expertise with our listeners, but also just sharing a little bit of your story about how you got into the industry and how you've built and developed your business. I want to share a couple of stats that I think are super relevant so that listeners will have an understanding of kind of put things into perspective for them, I think. 2024, you had a sales revenue of just over 39 million. And that was on 27 transactions, pretty even split too between buyers and sellers. And that came to an average of right around 1.5 million per transaction. So well established in the luxury market, I would say, and tremendous job. So congratulations on amazing 2024.
Thank you. It was a lot of fun.
A lot of fun, a lot of work, no doubt.
Right.
Um, Nicole, share before we dive into the business and your marketing and your branding and how you've developed this business for yourself. Share for listeners a little bit of your background. Where are you from, and how'd you get into this crazy business?
I'm originally from and was born and raised in Denver, Colorado, and I come from a family of real estate. My grandfather and my dad and my stepmom were all residential, and my brother is actually a commercial broker. And so, right out of college, did some traveling, started with some marketing, but eventually ended up in new construction sales. And then, once I met my now husband, is when I got my license and started off assisting my dad and my stepmom in Colorado because they were kind of getting on the retirement age and they wanted to go travel for months at a time. So, probably about 20, 21 years ago is when I started on their team and learned from them.
And sorry, I was just adjusting my level. Did you start in Colorado or here in the Lake Norman area?
I did. So I've been licensed in 4 states. With my husband's job, we did transfer several times. So I have been licensed in Colorado, Pennsylvania, North Carolina, and California. And
Wow.
we came to North Carolina the first time in 2000 and I believe it was 2012, 2013, and we lived here until 2018, and we had an opportunity to go back to Colorado. And so we went back home because that's where my whole family is, and we missed the lake too much. We kept coming back to visit friends, we would travel, we would come back to the lake, and we made a family decision to come back in 2020. Literally moved in the week of COVID.
That's right around the time that we connected. We connected shortly after that. That was
Yes.
when I started another platform in the Lake Norman area. And speaking of the lake, that is a big part of your brand, which we're going to dive into in a little while. But you've definitely incorporated that lake lifestyle into your brand and your marketing. And it looks like you and your family live the lifestyle too. So
We
that
do.
certainly
And
helps,
that's
doesn't it?
how why it's easy for me to sell where I live because number one, that's why we came back is
Mhm.
we love the lake life and I grew up water skiing and snow skiing since I was 2.
Wow. Okay. Well, I think that what you're doing in your marketing has been outstanding. Your social media is excellent. You've done a lot of work in YouTube as well, which I admire a lot. I think that that's an underutilized channel for that not enough brokers are taking advantage of. So it's great for those who are,
Mm-hmm.
because it's not quite saturated, and you've done some amazing work there. We're going to talk about that in a little bit, but I'm curious to know, and this is probably a tough question because there's so many parts to it, I'm sure, but what would you say are some of your primary keys to success in the luxury niche. I think a lot of brokers would love to work in the luxury niche. I think there is a barrier to entry for sure. Um, what do you think have been the keys to your success?
Number one, I do strongly believe in a luxury brand. So I do think the company that stands behind you has a big part of that because we all work together and it's a place, it's where you meet people. Not only is it just clients I have had of who they've referred me to that are in those price points, but there's just a lot of things to do around the lake that attract luxury buyers in a sense. So it's just kind of the people that I surround myself with, and then just something that I did during COVID and I do on a regular basis is I go preview homes that are 2 million plus and do a lot of marketing towards those areas. So it's just really where I really focused my time and my money from the beginning. And then when I started to get clients, really nurture those clients and see what their needs and wants are and work off of referrals. 80% of my business is referral generated from past clients.
I was going to ask you about that. What percentage of your business is referrals? That's interesting. That makes a lot of sense too. That such a large percentage of your business is referrals. You mentioned the word focus, and I think that that really is that resonated with me because I think that as you mentioned, you've marketed yourself as a luxury expert, and it's been intentional. Your business in that niche, that category, was developed intentionally, not by accident. And I think that is also really important for new brokers when they come into the industry to decide. It's not going to happen overnight. You have to be right. You have to be committed and consistent. But knowing which category you want to serve and branding yourself that way is so critical.
YouTube kind of helped with that. I know we'll get into that, but every client I have received from YouTube at the beginning when it first started cycling and I got phone calls, I would say nobody was under a million. And now it does have a wider range, but when that started trickling in and I started getting calls, the average price point was between one or two coming from YouTube.
Interesting. Yeah, that lines up with I'm an SEO guy, so I do a lot of marketing through online and organic reach through Google search, and I found that to be true among Google search leads as well. That those leads tend to be um, higher value. So that it's interesting, and it makes sense that YouTube would kind of line up that way as well. Yeah, I think it's an underutilized channel, but you've done a wonderful job on it. But you've also had, so there's been some commitment on your part. You don't, it's not homemade vlogging. Your videos are very well produced, very refined, and they look
Thank
tremendous. I
you.
know you've had some assistance there. So along those lines, what would you say to realtors as far as how they should invest? Is it important, do you think, to have uh, if you're going to dive into YouTube to begin with a real high quality mindset in mind?
And that was, yes, that was kind of my mentality. So it is, YouTube is something I created during COVID because, like I said, I moved
Mhm.
here, signed on to my office, and everything was closed for 6 months. So to say I had a very slow start because I did have some virtual business in Colorado, but as far as getting going again in North Carolina, I couldn't do open houses. I couldn't meet anybody. Doors were closed. And so that gave me time. When I was back in Colorado, a lot of people were already doing video, and a lot that I learned and people I met there, I was like, why is this not on the lake? And so when I had time, I created my storyboard. And one of the first photographers I met at one of my first listings during COVID, he was younger, and I kind of bounced the idea off of him where it's like, this is what I want to do. It has, so number one, it has to be consistent. You can't make one video, post one video, and think you're going to get a ton of traction. I had met an agent in Colorado that did a lot of video. And so I had reached out to him just saying, can I, would it be okay if I kind of took your video idea but changed it to the lake? And he was like, yeah, absolutely. Here's my website, kind of here's the general structure. And so it was kind of one of those where you ask and you shall receive. He kind of set me up, but you have to spend money to make money. So it was definitely a big jump for me when things were slow during COVID to make a commitment to a website and a monthly production to start building that YouTube and doing it consistently. And they did tell me like it will take about 6 months of constantly posting, and then my videos go along with my blog. And they literally hit it on the nose. Like month 7 is when I started getting phone calls. And so it's like you have to constantly post, like you said, the SEO, everything is intertwined in a sense, and then you will start getting traction. It doesn't happen overnight. So I did have a storyboard laid out. We made a plan. We met once a month. The gentleman that was helping me with the video, he also kind of, had the younger mindset and understood a lot more of YouTube than I did at that time. So he would post whatever he produced, and then I would work in conjunction with my website. So it was kind of a trickle effect that took several months, but then once it caught on, it grew from there. And yes, as far as the professional, I'm not a selfie person. I cannot just hold my phone, and I hate taking selfies, and so I knew from the beginning I needed somebody else on the other side of the camera, because if I would have left it up to myself, I would have never done it.
Yeah, I can attest to the fact that you're not a selfie person. I don't think I've ever seen you take a
No.
selfie on Instagram.
I
So yeah, or post a
they
selfie.
can make
Yeah.
me look better.
You don't have any trouble in that department, but it's funny. I'm the same way. I'm that's not
Yeah.
my thing. So,
And then that's
um,
also that luxury price point. I felt if I delivered a professional product, it just gives, it attracts different buyers. It gives a different vibe than cell phone. Not saying either is right or wrong, but I just knew that that's what
right.
I preferred.
I agree. You mentioned that you had a storyboard, you had a plan ahead of time. I think that's so important too, because in order to be consistent, I think you need to be prepared and you have to have a plan and you have to do a lot of work ahead of time. In other words, I know this from experience. Don't try to create and produce a video a week and expect to stay consistent, because you're going to miss a week,
Right.
or you're going to burn out, or you're going to run out of ideas. So it's important to have that plan ahead of time, and have the scripts written out and know exactly what your B-roll is going to be, and then stick to the plan and be consistent.
Hmm.
And then of course, marketing to a luxury category, and branding, your brand is a luxury brand, and you're affiliated with a luxury brand. Um, it is important, I think, to have those refined, well produced videos as well. But yeah, I mean, that was right around, so and in fact, I used one of your videos in one of my blog posts. It's embedded in one of my Lake Norman blog posts on a channel that I produce here
Yeah.
locally. It's a video you did on Davidson. So I was like, well, I can't do it better than this. So I
Oh,
embedded
thank
it
you.
in a blog post. Yeah, no problem. So, but I think that's really excellent marketing. So 80% referrals. You've received some pretty good traffic and no doubt some leads from your YouTube production. What are some other marketing avenues or channels that you think have produced fairly decent leads for you?
So I still believe in print and online. I think it's important to do both because the main thing is name recognition, so people see you everywhere. So I do a lot of local magazines, and I still farm a couple neighborhoods. So I think that that's very important. But besides YouTube, everything is correlated. Like I said, if people are going, so I do believe um, the videos when people look up something besides homes. For example, I do videos of local businesses. So a lot of times somebody was looking up how to rent a boat on Lake Norman, and my video about renting a boat came up, and then that leads to a transaction. So I just think selling the area versus just homes. Just educating people on the lake is the first. And then that, what I post on YouTube is also on Instagram. I wouldn't say I get very much from Facebook, but I definitely have gotten leads from Instagram. And then something that I believe is very underutilized that a lot of people don't understand is Google My Business. And it is so important to have a Google My Business page. And it is a process to get verified through Google. But in a sense, they're just making sure you're a real person and a real business. And then I feed Google My Business just like I feed Instagram. And you may not get conversation back and forth, but it does, again, it all correlates. So when people put something into Google, Google has all of my posts that like I would have on Instagram.
That's an excellent point. That's actually come on my radar a lot over the last few months. I recently connected with another marketing agency to help with some website work development. And one of the things that they've really taken a deep dive into over the last 18 months, 12 months for sure, has been uh, local SEO with regard to Google My Business
Hmm.
profiles. And they're huge advocates of that for their clients. And as you mentioned earlier, like everything else, you can't just post once
It
and then
has to
forget
be
about it, right?
consistent.
Has to be managed and consistent and nurtured, but it's hugely valuable when it comes to local search and local SEO.
Hmm.
So that's a great point. I'm actually, at some point, I'm going to have TJ from Studio 490 on the podcast to talk about Google SEO and marketing for digital marketing for real estate brokers, because I think that that's really, really
Hmm.
important. Your colleague Mike Feely was on the podcast a few months ago, and he mentioned as well that farming neighborhoods is still an important part of his plan and uh, has contributed a lot to his success as well. So I think that that's important too, the balance between digital and print. Print's still relevant if it's again intentional, and I believe if if you have a strategy
Yes.
behind it.
Yeah, I still do both because I feel the same as Mike to where it's like the areas that you live and specialize in, people need to know who you are. And just by providing the basic information, everybody wants to know what their house is worth, what the neighborhood is doing. So it's very simple to do on a monthly basis, and you're just always top of mind. So besides internet and Google, the number one thing I do is keep in touch with my clients. And I would say 90% of my clients I hang out with on a regular basis after the transaction, whether it's dinners or kids or something else, because that you just always need to be top of mind.
I uh, I noticed also, correct me if I'm wrong, you participated in a record sale in Cornelius, North Carolina this past year. Can you tell me a little bit about that?
Yeah, I always like to tell people it's important to answer your phone so that um so yes, our the owner of Ivester Jackson and so Lori Jackson had the listing. It was listed for 12 million in Cornelius, and it was on the market for about 30 days. It is literally the most amazing home I have seen on Lake Norman. It was just very unique, had beautiful shoreline, beautiful views, and then of course multiple offers were received. So it really kind of told the story of how Lake Norman is growing and how many people are really interested in the lake and the higher end ultra luxury properties. But the funny story is, I was actually in Hilton Head for a quick spring break getaway, and the bikes were in the beach, and we went to the ocean for a little bit. And when I came back, I had a missed call, which most people would have just ignored it. And 99% of the time, it's spam. And I called the number back, introduced myself, said that I missed the call, and the gentleman just started talking, said that he, was Googling, looking at a couple different agents, and then just started telling me what he was looking for on the lake. And we probably looked for about 2 or 3 weekends, and it's a long story, but ended up with that house. So
Sure.
it was an
I,
incredible
I love it.
experience, and like I said, it was a lot of fun just getting to experience that home and working with great buyers.
That home is magnificent. So I didn't get an opportunity to see that in person. I think there was a media day, but I was traveling, and everyone I spoke to that walked through that house just said how spectacular it was. That it was without a doubt their favorite home on the lake, and for listeners outside that aren't familiar with Lake Norman and this market, there are some
Hmm.
magnificent homes on Lake Norman. I mean, it's just incredible, and it seems like every new home is even more spectacular than the one before. But that home was
Yeah. And
really
there are
amazing.
some other amazing homes on the market now that, like you said, it just
Hmm.
keeps getting better and better. It does still hold the record. Not some, the others haven't sold yet, but I have heard that there is
Hmm.
some interested parties, and I do think it's going to be a busy spring. So I know that it's going to keep going,
Records were meant to be broken, right?
right? I'm
So
happy to break them again.
break them again. Yep, absolutely. Well, I love all the points that you made. I love that you brought up Google My Business Profile. I think that that's really top of mind for me lately and a hot topic. So would love to chat with you more offline about that sometime. I think, what do you think about, so there is so much to digital marketing that a real estate broker can't necessarily be expected to be an expert in. SEO, YouTube, um, website development, email marketing,
Mhm.
and then things like Google My Business Profile. Is it important, do you think, to connect with a marketing agency who can manage and develop those channels
I
for you?
do. It kind of just depends on how much the agent wants to be involved, but it is a full-time job. And I also tell people to focus on what works. You can't be 100% of everything. So kind of start a little bit of everything and see what you have a reaction from. Because like I said, I know I don't get a lot of from Facebook, but I will post just to have that constant recognition. But for example, I posted a few videos on TikTok. I'm like, this is not for me. So, YouTube, Instagram, LinkedIn, I would say are my top three. Google My Business. So that's what I focus on. If I tried to focus on absolutely everything, it wouldn't be good content for those specific channels. And yes, video and all of these is the way of the future. So people who are not in it, they really need to get into it. And so for some people that don't understand, like I said, when I first started YouTube, my photographer knew a lot more about it than I did. So I paid him for his expertise. So yes, it is definitely worth it to get the help, get the marketing specialists that can really use your time and your money wisely for those channels.
I agree too that it's important to go deep on just one
Hmm.
or two channels. Don't
That's why
try
you
to do
can't
them
chase
all.
every shiny
Maybe three
object
if yeah.
because there's a
Right, right,
ton.
right. Yeah. And then focus on, let's say you are producing content and marketing on three channels: Instagram, YouTube, SEO, and see which one is producing, and then triple
Hmm.
down on that
And
channel.
which one you get
So
the most
yeah,
interaction with, and
yeah,
just to learn the
yeah.
basics, because I know a lot of people where it's like if you get a comment on something, you have to reply. It's like that's what's telling the systems that people are engaging, and you just simply reply and have conversations within the platform, which helps tremendously. But sometimes people post and they don't respond to any of the comments. And like so little things like that that are so easy to do are the, little tricks people need to learn.
That's so true. I'm terrible at
Hmm.
replying to comments. I think that's a big, um, that's something I need to improve on in 2025, or I need to hire someone and
Right?
give them my
Have them
password and tell them to
manage it.
reply to all the comments. But yeah, that's, understanding those nuances of each channel is important too. And I think it's important to know a little bit so that you understand what your marketing
Mhm.
agency is
And
doing
that's like the
for
same
you.
with reviews. On
And
Google, My Business reviews are huge, but you have to reply to them.
mm, interesting. Okay.
Hmm.
Yeah, that's good to know. Yeah. All right. So one other topic I wanted to ask you about was how important do you think? You know, I'm huge into networking. Obviously, that's why I produce this podcast. I produce another one here locally in the well, actually two in the Charlotte market, and uh, I'm a huge advocate for developing relationships with amazing referral partners or partners who just help you elevate your professionalism, your talents, your skills, and your business as well. So, not only do I love to network with potential referral partners here locally, I love to network with outstanding brokers like yourself who just give me a lot of really great ideas and inspiration for what to do with my business and how to build my brand and that sort of thing. So I'm just curious, how important do you think is personal one-on-one networking? Because that is the difficult thing to scale. It takes time to do that. You can't scale that like digital marketing. What do you think about that?
Right. I absolutely believe in networking and think it is very beneficial. So not only, like you said, referral partners, because whomever I refer to my client reflects on me. So I want to know them personally. I want to know that they will deliver the same level of customer service. But also just with other agents, I feel that there is ample business for everybody, so we can learn from each other. And like you just said, whatever little tidbits we can give each other, everything may not work for everybody, but just to learn that one new skill or one new tip, it helps all of us in the long run. So I love networking locally. And also, too, locally is when I submit an offer or they submit an offer on my listing, we know each other. We trust each other. We know it'll be a smooth transaction. So it is very important to have a good, strong reputation with local agents. And then I also travel and meet a lot of agents in other states, especially our feeder markets, for two reasons. One, I always want to be top of mind if somebody says I'm moving to North Carolina, whether or not it is my area of expertise, I want to be first person that they think of. And if it's outside of my area, I know somebody else to refer them to. But then also too with my YouTube, I do get a lot of buyer leads and they often are selling in another state. So I like to know agents in other states. So again, it's a personal connection and somebody I can hand them off to and know that they will be well taken care of. So there's 1,000 benefits to networking both locally and in other states.
Traveling to feeder markets. Tell me a little bit more about that. That's interesting to me. What is that? What does this travel look like, and what do you do while you're in those areas?
Well, I usually do a conference or it's a an organized event. So, for example, Christie's has a networking event at least once or twice a year, and it will be in different areas. There's also a group called the Master Circle, which is the top 5% of Christie's, and we will have separate meetings just to get to know each other, but just marketing ideas, but getting to know agents that would probably be in the same price bracket for those referrals. So I always travel like within the network to meet other agents in other states. I've also traveled for more of a business coaching, and I would say some of our biggest feeder markets are Texas, California, Colorado, New York, Florida. So I want to meet a ton of agents, but I do tend to focus on trying to making relationships in those areas because I know that's where we'll exchange business. So it's always for a reason. So, for example, I also traveled to do ninja training at one point just to meet people in other areas, but you're also, you know, learning and getting new skills while you're meeting new people.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's another advantage of the fact that Ivester Jackson is affiliated with Christie's International Realty is that you do have a network of highly successful brokers who specialize in the category in which you specialize as well, that you can network with nationwide and even globally.
And I even run a Zoom that once a month for agents that I have met at those networking events. We meet once a month just to, we'll always have a topic to talk about, but it's always meeting with agents. I think we're up to 12 agents nationwide, and we share each other's listings. We help each other if there's questions, like when the whole commission changes came up last year.
Mm.
we kind of brainstormed and like, how are you going to present this to your clients? And so it's just good to have people in other areas. How did that new rule change California's industry? How did it change? So we have a group of, and then again, it's people I know really well. So if they need a referral somewhere, we can usually hand it off and make a personal connection. But I meet with a group of agents at least once a month.
Are these all Christie's agents?
Yeah, that group with,
Hmm.
yeah, this group is, but I do have another one that more local events that are agents from all brokerages, kind of like
Hmm.
the events you put together, and then there's another one called Coffee for Closers. So there's a lot of stuff locally that local agents get together and brainstorm and help each other out.
Yeah, Coffee for Closers, I've noticed on social. That looks like a really cool gathering. Always at
Hmm.
a really unique property and really well set up and well planned.
And I think a lot of broker open now too. It doesn't, a lot of agents are attending and participating. It's not just, if I hold a broker open, it's not just going to be our agents. Agents
Hmm.
from all other companies come and join. And something, not to go back to marketing, but I've started to do broker video events where people can create their own video at my listings. And I've had people from all brokerages come. So I'll pay for the video where they do their intro and they're promoting my listing. And all you do is tag the listing agent, but hopefully they'll bring me a buyer. And the whole point
Hmm.
of doing that is now it just got seen by hundreds of thousands of people because they're promoting it on their pages. So
Absolutely.
doing stuff like that, I don't care what brokerage they're from. If they want to make a great video and promote it, I hope we get to work together.
I love that mindset. We've collaborated in that way a few times over the last year, and I've been super appreciative of that. And yeah, I love that. To me, that's an abundant mindset, and
Hmm.
it's just smart marketing. Rising tide raises all ships, so to speak.
Yep.
I've been well. I love that you mentioned the Zoom call that you do once a month with the group because I've actually talked to another broker that's been on this podcast. Ran an idea by him that and actually one that you and I both know. I'm not going to mention his name, but I asked him. I say, what I'd really love to do with this podcast with Epic Agents is at some point to have a group of 20 or so, plus or minus whatever that number might be, from around the country that we can jump on a call once a month and start sharing some wins and losses,
Hmm.
some trends in those areas and that sort of thing. And I that's an idea that I have. I would love for you to participate in that. I'm not going to put you on the spot right now, but as I develop that idea and have
Yeah.
a plan, I will reach back out and let you know, and would love for you to be on that.
Yeah. No, I love that. I look at it as like group coaching or group counseling, whatever you want to call it. But
Hmm.
yeah, like we're all here to help each other, and something that worked for me, a few weeks ago might be the next step for somebody else. So it's just
Yeah.
all a good way to bounce ideas off of each other.
Video is not optional anymore.
Very,
How
very
many
true.
your videos are so well done. How many takes do those two usually take?
We've
I have to
gotten
take.
good.
Have you?
So I always tell people the very first video I did, my very first Lake Norman video, I would lie if I did not say I had tequila for breakfast. I was scared to death. My
I love
daughter
it.
held cue cards behind the photographer so I wouldn't forget, just like the key points. And even the very first video, my husband was like, "You need to smile." And I'm like, I had so much other things going through my mind. So it did take time. And like we use the
Yeah.
video, you are your worst critic. And that's why a lot of people
Hmm.
don't continue and they don't do it because all you do is critique yourself. But you just have to keep doing it. And with practice gets better. And with my photographer, when we first started, what we call a local highlight would literally take us all day. And
Hmm.
now between organization and scripting and a teleprompter when needed, it takes us 2 hours.
Yeah.
So it just takes practice makes perfect. And, he developed as much as I did. And to really have a relationship with somebody that you meet with on a regular basis, that you I would suggest having a Zoom call at least a week before the production date, just so you know where are you meeting, what stops are you making, what are you talking about, and just be prepared, and then you can just knock it out of the park.
Excellent advice. Just got to hit record. We got
Yes.
to get over ourselves. And I say this all the time. Believe me, if I can do it, anyone can do it. So,
And there's apps out there for
yeah.
people who don't want to pay a professional. I totally get it. It was just my
Hmm.
thing, but I think it's called Big View, and there's other ones that you type your script into your cell phone, and as you stare at your own camera, you're reading a script.
Hmm.
So it just helps you again free your mind of trying to memorize everything and just staring at the camera just so you can make something and start posting on a regular basis.
Excellent advice. Nicole, before I let you go, I do want to ask you one more thing for new agents. Real estate schools, pre-licensing courses are still full, and there's no shortage of folks coming into the industry. It's very alluring for obvious reasons. What advice would you have for those just entering the industry?
I always tell people you get out what you put into it. If you sit back and because a lot of people get into this industry because of the flexible schedule. At the beginning, I would say I've been full time the last 8 years. At the beginning, I was around for my kids. I bet I only had, 5 to 10 closings a year because I wanted to volunteer at school. I wanted that flexibility. So I tell people getting into it, you get out what you put into it. If go to the gym at 10 o'clock in the afternoon and you don't show up to the office till noon, you're not going to have a lot of business. If you
Mm,
don't make your calls and you just assume all of your friends and family are going to use you, it's not going to happen. So you really have got to put in the time and the effort and be disciplined to treat it like a full-time job, even though nobody's holding you accountable unless you're on a team. We're here not to be babysat and we're here to be independent. So you have to put the work in and to really just talk to people whatever office they join. I really think the best thing to do is to hold open houses. That's the best place to meet buyers, which when I first moved to North Carolina, that was one of my first transactions because they came in and they needed to sell before they buy. And so I
hmm.
really think for new agents, once they feel comfortable, I think open houses is a great way to meet people. And then that's kind of how you start building your sphere and reaching out to people you know. So it's a process and not to get discouraged because I do think once it starts going, it will start snowballing. But a lot of times it takes a few months to get that first transaction.
Absolutely. Yeah, I think open houses is, I agree that that's a great way to start building your experience and your confidence and generating some leads
Mhm. And
organically.
ask to shadow agents. I have some agents that I'm mentors to, and just come with me on a day of showings or come with me to a listing appointment because a lot of clients, if I just introduce somebody saying, they're here if we need help, but they just wanted to watch today, everybody's okay with it.
Yeah, yeah. I'm a firm believer that, especially new in the industry, to maybe sacrifice a little in the beginning and do some work for somebody who's doing the kind of work that you want to do, or whether it's ask them
Hmm.
to be for a mentorship or ask to be their assistant or to assist them in in their day to day. And yeah, that's a great way if you can just suck it up for a couple of years. You could really, I believe that's a great way to jumpstart a fabulous career.
Yeah.
Get out what you put into it. I tried to tell that to a business partner. It fell on deaf ears forever, but that man, that hits home for me. You truly get out what you put into it, and real
Hmm.
estate's no different.
Yeah.
It's it's a lot of work, but
Yeah.
you
And
get
it
it.
works both ways to learn that balance too. Because we have our busy seasons where it's like I feel like I work 90 hours a week, but then when it slows down too, you got to keep that consistency
Mhm.
you can't. However, a lot of people say take off Christmas or take off the fourth quarter. You don't do that. You
Right.
keep going.
Yeah, the time to you don't stop marketing in your downtime, right? It's
Right.
a
And
yeah
there's a rule in real estate, it will happen if you go out of town. So
yeah
my dad used to say, plan a trip every 6 weeks and you'll have the best year of your life because
yeah.
you will get so busy the day you leave.
That's awesome. Yeah, and your trip to Hilton Head proves that, doesn't it?
Well, and
Yeah.
then, so yes, I got the call when I was in Hilton Head, and it physically went under contract when I was in Turks and Caicos.
Oh wow,
The two trips I took this year.
that's awesome. I love
Yep.
it. Nicole, once again, thank you so much for. I know you're super busy. I appreciate you taking the time to join the podcast. How can listeners learn more about you and connect with you?
Well, I greatly appreciate you having me and for the invite. The best way to learn more about me would be my website, www.nicoleleininger.com, and that's Leininger. Also, too, my name is my handle for all of my social media. So, Nicole Leininger Realtor on Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, they're all the same. And phone number is 704-450-6280.
I'll have links, of course, in the description for this episode, and look forward to tagging you on social media when we release this. Nicole Leininger, super successful real estate broker here in the Lake Norman, Charlotte area, and just an awesome all-around person as well. With Ivester Jackson Distinctive Properties, a Christie's affiliate. Nicole, thanks again.
Thank you, Jeff. Thank you for all your support all the time.